Hey guys, this is Kevin Hingle with Hingle Makes It Happen. We're back here at the Mancheck Brewery again, and I'm going to explain how a glycol system works, show you my glycol system, and give you some other ideas for how to do temperature control of your beer as you're letting it ferment. Here we go. All right guys, so this is my setup here for fermentation. For those who don't know, fermentation is the process where the sugars are converted to alcohol in beer. The sugars come from the grains that you are using during the brewing process. All the washing of the grain basically pulls the sugars and the flavors and everything out of the grain. And then once that process is done, you need to ferment it to get your sugars to convert to alcohol. The way the fermentation process goes is basically you just sit in the beer there and you put in whatever type of yeast it is that you want to use. This is one of the yeasts that I have for an upcoming batch that I'm going to do. This is Safe Ale US 05. This is one of the most popular common yeast on the market. This is a dry yeast, so it comes in a little dry, little package, and it doesn't need to be refrigerated when you get it, so I keep it in one of my coolers. Now, if you look real closely on their temperature range, the temperature range for this yeast is basically 53 to 77 degrees, ideally 59 to 71. The reason for that is it is kind of a living organism, and it has to have temperature control for it to do its job correctly. So the yeast goes in the wort, which is basically the beer before it's fermented. After it's fermented, it becomes beer. So you put your wort in your fermentation chamber, whatever it is, could be a bucket. These are called conicals. Conical basically looks like a cone, so it's conical fermentation. And you put the wort in there, put your yeast in there, and give it time. Simple brewing. You could do it in a bucket, put it in a closet, rock and roll, and you're good to go. You're going to make good beer. As you want to get better at it, you want to temperature control. The reason you temperature control, the better that temperature is controlled, the better of a beer you'll come out with, and the better you can fine tune your flavors. And when I say flavors, the meaning behind that is depending on the yeast that you use and how you brewed your wort beer, you'll get different flavors. On that yeast, if you go with the high end in the temperature scale, you'll get one flavor. You go in the low end, you'll get a different flavor. So that's why temperature control is kind of important. So, very important stuff. These conicals, these are made by Spike Brewing. Spike Brewing is an incredible company for beer brewing equipment. I also buy a lot of stuff from Blickman. So this conical, stainless steel chamber, has a lot of different features to it, which that's not what this video is about. This is by glycol. So I ferment in the conical. This is my glycol chilling unit. Basically, it looks like a little window unit. Usually it's really not supposed to sit on a shelf. It's supposed to be more ground level, but I don't have much space because I do all this brewing inside. But you have that, and you have this little bin right here. It's kind of like a steam table pan, and you put your stuff in there. So you see it's got copper coils that go in the mixture. That mixture is a mixture of glycol and water. Glycol, propylene glycol, food grade. They are other glycols in the market. There's a food grade. This I got from Amazon, pretty inexpensive. I think 25 bucks, 30 bucks, somewhere in that neighborhood. So you mix this with water. There's different ratios of how much you're supposed to mix, but you do about 60% water, 40% glycol, somewhere in that neighborhood to get you a good range. The purpose of the glycol is very similar to a radiator fluid. It lets the water that you're using in here get much colder. With that glycol, I can get the temperature in my unit down to 26, 27 degrees. You don't need it to be that cold, naturally. A lot of times you are fermenting anywhere in the neighborhood, like the yeast says, 52 to 75 degrees. Different yeasts, different temperature ranges. They usually say it on the packet. I get all my yeast from my local homebrew store, Brew Stock. Oliver there is very, very helpful, and he'll tell me how do you want to do it higher, or do you want to do it lower, or what have you. So that's how it works. So you have your glycol that goes in here and is refrigerated. Right now it's set at 70 because I'm not doing anything, so I just have it set up real high. So those cooling systems make the glycol very, very cold. Like I said, I can set this all the way down to 27. And then it has these little pumps that go inside here. I can't show you the pump because it has little suction cups and it sticks to the bottom of the thing, but it's just a very small, like a little fountain pump. And the fountain pump is activated by these little guys. These are temperature control units. This one says Spike, but I'm pretty sure Inkbird makes theirs because they look exactly the same. Basically how these work is you set whatever temperature you want. So this is at 32 just because the last time I used it, I was doing a process called cold crashing, and that's where I stopped it during that cold crash with 32. But the temperature that's in here right now, it's 70 degrees. That's the temperature in this room. So like I said, there are other ways of cooling your wort. There's a bunch of different options. You can have a fermentation chamber, like I have one here as well. Basically, it's just a freezer, and the freezer has a similar Inkbird set up on it, and it turns the freezer on and off. That's not one of the best methods for the freezer itself, because the way that it usually works for someone simple like me is you just plug the whole unit in. And when you do that, unfortunately, it shuts the entire unit on and off. In a refrigerator, you really want the temperature control to turn the compressor on and off, otherwise it's not good for the compressor. So simple ways, you can just hook the whole thing up to the Inkbird. It does the same job, just not as good for the compressor basically. You can get more technical, and some of them you can wire to the compressor so that the compressor will be turned on and off and not the whole refrigerator, but I don't know that much about that stuff, so I can't do that. Other options, instead of having the window unit looking thing, you can put a bucket of water in a refrigerator with the same Inkbird system, with the same pump, and if that refrigerator is keeping the water, glycol, whatever, inside of it at a good low temperature, then it's going to be able to maintain control of the temperature in your setup. Besides that, if you don't want to use a glycol system, you can use buckets, put buckets in the fermentation chamber like I have there, and that gives you a steady control. It's not as good of a control as these conicals have, because they have where the piping goes down through the middle and cools the beer from the middle out. If you do a bucket in a fermentation chamber, it just keeps the outside of it cool. So kind of like if you put hot food in the refrigerator, the middle of that food could be hot for a very long period of time before it gets all the way down till it cools the center. Same thing by using fermentation chamber. So the Spike system, or many other people make a very similar system, that is better because it cools it from the inside out, kind of like the way a microwave works. So it's just different ways of doing the same job, basically. But that's basically how temperature control works. So hopefully that might help a little bit. If you have some questions, feel free to put them here. As always, please like the page. Please share the page. I appreciate your comments. I'm sorry I'm not really fast at getting back to comments, but I always try. If there's particular other videos y'all want, please ask. I know I've had a couple of inquiries about getting more in depth on the actual brewing process, and I'm gonna do those other videos, some all grain and some non-all grain or extract brewers. So I will do that for you as soon as I have time. But that's it for today. Again, thank you for joining us. Like, share, blah, 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 good stuff. Cheers to you, and y'all have a great day.